it never occurred to me that there was a lock on that door, because stage doors on sets don't have them. And Jackie made an exit, and I heard a funny click. I thought, that couldn't be a lock. And then I heard whispering, very strange whispering outside, and there was no one for me to talk to. And I couldn't leave the stage. I couldn't walk off into the bedroom and leave an empty set. So I think I went over to the stove and started to stir nothing in a pan and hum, and all this whispering, and my back was to the window. And all of a sudden, I heard a voice, and I looked around, and Jackie had sent Art around, who was to make his next entrance, and to the fire escape, and he came through the window without opening it. And as he came through, he said, "There's more than one way to skin a cat." And then the next one on was a little Western Union guy. And as I went this time, the Western Union kid knocks on the door. And as I started, I thought, is that door going to open or not? And just as I started for the door, Artie said, "Good luck, Alice."
That window was the site of many a memorable moment.
Oh, yes.
On the Honeymooners.
Yeah.
Like when Ralph tried to pass the cue on to Norton, who was going to go into his sleepwalking routine.
Yeah.
And he would come sleepwalking down when Ralph said, "It certainly looks like rain tonight." And it was, whoa! It certainly looks like, about 5 times. It was an amazing apartment, though.
You do that very well, you know.
I'm not the right proportion, though.
No.
An amazing apartment in that when one or the other of you went into the bedroom,
yes,
didn't make any difference how loudly anyone spoke in the other room. You couldn't hear a thing. Those walls must have been made of granite.
That's right. I love that apartment.
Do you have a favorite episode?
I have 2 favorite episodes. One is the adoption story where we adopted the baby. And unbeknownst to us, we ran over time. And we finished it for the studio audience, but it wasn't finished for the public. And the phones were tied up at CBS for several days with people calling up saying, they do not have to give that baby back. That mother has no right to take the baby back. They can keep the baby. And a friend of mine's mother called me up who works in, did at the time, worked in one of those groups, you know, for unwed mothers. And she said, "Audrey, you do not have to give that baby back." I said, "Mrs. Douglas, it's a story. It's a play. I don't have the baby." She said, "Oh, my God." She said, everyone took it so seriously. It was the most beautiful written story, I think, of all time.
Mr. Kramden, I don't know what you think we're like down at the adoption agency, but, well, certainly we're anxious to have our children put in nice homes, but that doesn't mean just furniture. The main things are love and affection, and that the parents have a real desire to have a child. And Mr. Kramden, I don't think I've ever been in any home where I've seen a greater desire to have a child.
Miss Lawrence, you mean that?
Yes, Mrs. Kramden, you'll get your child.
Oh, Ralph.
We're gonna have it? We're gonna have a baby? Well, let's wait till I tell Norton about this. You don't have to tell us a thing, Rod. The whole school has been on all this, and congratulations, Dad! It's a little kid. Somebody's got to take care of it. Just don't give him away and then want him back. I had that kid. We both had the kid. Had it for a week now. What's the matter with him? I love the kid.
I know, Ralph. I know just how you feel, because I feel the same way. But if we feel the way we do, imagine how the mother feels.
What do I care about how the mother feels? What do I care how she feels? You know something that this kid's gonna have over all other kids? He's gonna have a Santa Claus. A real live Santa Claus. Every Christmas, every time he has a birthday, I'm gonna be there. The both of us will be there. We'll go over and see him, see her, give it gifts all the time. I'm going upstairs now, and I'll call from Norton's apartment. I'll tell him to come over and get the kid. Watch him, Alice. She kicks the covers off.
The Honeymooners could be genuinely touching.
Oh, yeah.
Whenever I see the Christmas episode and Ralph has misbehaved again and he's been inconsiderate again, although he loves Alice as much as any man can love any woman, but his desire to be a hero and to be a bigger man than he's capable of being sometimes gets the better of him. And then, in that moment of reconciliation, she reaches behind her back and she's got that present. And she says, "Merry Christmas, Ralph." And he gives her the "Baby, you're the greatest." I mean, that's as touching a love scene as you will ever see.
Christmas is, well, it's about the best time of the whole year. You walk down the streets even for weeks before Christmas comes. And there's lights hanging up, green ones and red ones. Sometimes there's snow. Everybody's hustling someplace. But they don't hustle around Christmas time like they usually do. You know, they're a little more friendly. They bump into you, they laugh, and they say, "Pardon me, and Merry Christmas." Especially when it gets real close to Christmas night. Everybody's walking home. You can hardly hear a sound. Bells are ringing, kids are singing, snow is coming down. And boy, what a pleasure it is to think that you got someplace to go to. And the place that you're going to, there's somebody in it that you really love. Someone you're nuts about. Merry Christmas.
Stay tuned. Later will return in a moment.
Very physical comedians. That you made a very astute decision early on about how you would play Alice.
Well, I really had no choice. Fortunately, having seen him do it on the Cavalcade of Stars, I realized they were both so physical that if I was physical too, it would be a little much, you know. And I thought, well, I will just hold my position. I will stay firm in what I say with the various approaches to him, and he'll have to come back to me because the director that we had followed the money. And wherever Jackie went, that camera went with Jackie. So if you just stood there, he would eventually come back to you. And if he ever couldn't remember his lines, he paced. And he walked up and down. And he'd pace, you know, behind the table and around a little
And you would
bit.
just stand there with your hands on your hips and look at him. And now that I think of it, you seldom, if ever, walked into a frame.
No.
You were
I
just
was found.
there. And you were the calm in this violent scene.
Yes, yeah.
When Ralph Kramden would give Alice one of those big kisses just after exclaiming, "Baby, you're the greatest," he never really kissed her, did he?
No.
Stage kisses.
Stage kisses.
Off to the side?
Off to the side, maybe caught the corner of my mouth, but it wasn't what we see today with exchanging.
Well, he would envelop her so much that you could hardly. It was like a Rudolph Valentino swayback job.
And it was a lovely hug, and it looked as though we were really kissing.
Yeah.
But in those days, you didn't do that kind of open mouth kissing, sharing tongues that we do today.
You know, Ralph was obviously insanely jealous, whether it was the guy coming to redecorate or the Mamba teacher, which ended up in one of the greatest scenes in the world when he finally realizes that all intentions are innocent, and he and Mrs. Manicotti and Norton are all dancing around. That's unbelievable.
I know.
But there was the one time when he made you jealous, when you were invited over to Bert Wiedemeyer's house, and he had the bimbo for the wife.
Oh, yes.
And they were fawning all over her.
All over her, ignoring us, letting us just sit.
You know, if Twinkles didn't remind me about food, we'd never eat. Well, our friends say we live on love. I'll bring it in.
Oh, well, let me help. Let me help.
Really, there's no need to bother.
Perfectly all right. This way we can bring it all in together.
What a husband you have. He certainly is a treasurer.
A treasure. If he keeps this up much longer, he's going to be a buried treasure.
The wonderful thing about those scripts is that the situations touched everybody. Everyone can believe or has experienced in their life some of the things that we went through, don't you think?
Sure. And so they're you know, making a big deal over this flashy wife that Bert Wiedemeyer has, which was funny in and of itself, because Bert Wiedemeyer was this kind of wimpy little character, and he had this statuesque blonde bombshell for a wife. Then the next night, Ralph comes back from driving the bus, and you greet him dressed like a floozy. And I thought that was one of your greatest ever.
Who needs food? We can live on love, right? Kiss me. I won't be gone long, killer. I call you killer, 'cause you slay me.
And I'm calling Bellevue 'cause you're not.
Well, I think Alice was really the first women's liver.
How so?
Because she didn't just lie down and take it like, you know, be walked over like a doormat. She stood up for herself. She stood up for what she felt was right. And in telling him off, there was always that little kind of glint of enjoyment when she got even with him. But at the same time, as you say, there was that depth of her understanding of the man, and that the love was more important than worrying about the fact that he blew the money again.
Yeah, she'd nail him with some of the most biting sarcasm.
Yeah.
After he'd go through some elaborate things, she'd just close the conversation with one quick dagger. But in the end, she was his sanctuary for all of his flaws and all of his shortcomings. She justified his existence. If this wonderful woman loved him, then there must be something redeemable about him.
But also, she didn't get into a fight that was a long fight. Don't you remember? Alice would always finally kind of give up and sit in the chair and know that he would have to come around to the realization of the apology.
Yeah.
I loved that moment of just sitting there and not having to do anything except... And you know, I never knew what he was doing behind me until we did the filming.
And you heard the audience react.
That audience would be screaming with laughter when he would, you know, try and...
He tried to gather himself. I can't remember which episode it was, but he had hurt your feelings, and you had told him so. And then you sat down at the kitchen table very forlornly, and then he walked behind you and gave it that...
Yes.
He's going to start to say something, but he couldn't quite.
Couldn't quite do it. And the audience would scream with laughter. I had no idea what he was doing back there.
All right, Alice. I'm a mopes. I did it again. Sorry if I'm jealous. It's just a mere thought of any guy even looking at you is enough to drive me nuts.
Did you get residuals from the Honeymooners?
Yes.
Did all of the performers?
No. You see, my brothers, both lawyers, and one was in New York, and then my theatrical lawyer is here in New York, and who's also the lawyer for the union, for AFTRA. And they handled the contract. And I begged Art to get a lawyer. And Art it didn't concern him that much. None of us knew that it would run all this time. And I said, Art, you're paid more than I am. You're billed ahead of me. You've got to help me. You're standing in my way. So we were halfway through shooting the 39 before I signed my contract. But by just waiting and holding out, I would dream up things, and I'd call my brother at night, and I'd say, I just thought of something I want in the contract. He'd say, you can't put anything in there now. I say, I certainly can. Why can't I? He said, you can't. It's set. Well, I'm going to, I would say. And he said, on what basis? I said, girls' rules. I live by girls' rules, and I want it in there. So we would go to Jackie, and sure enough, we'd get my little thing that was girls' rules. There were so many riders in that contract, initialed, and there was one they changed, which I thought was very insulting to Jackie. They changed the morals clause. Went on forever. That was the, I guess the mentality of the corporate structure at Buick, that their lawyers probably didn't trust anybody in show business. And it went on for so long, I felt it was very insulting because all the contracts had to match. I said, well, I'm not going to sign anything like that, for heaven's sakes. It was disgraceful. And they said, well, you have to. I said, okay, then I'm putting my own rider in here. And I put in a rider that said, and I drew it with a heart, and I put, J.G. loves A.M., and made Jackie and everybody initial it, just because I was so aggravated about the morals clause.
So the morals clause, as it pertained, it was written specifically for Jackie, to, I guess, to take care of his behavior.
I guess for all of us, but his being the star and everything riding on him, it was very insulting. You know there's a standard morals clause and everything. But I mean, this was...
This one
gosh,
got into specifics.
Somebody did something with a goat in the middle of Fifth Avenue, practically. I mean, it was just... It was absurd. And I would have none of it. It didn't fit my girl's rules.
Are you inferring that I was in burlesque?
If the shoe fits, take it off.
Where are you going, Trick? I know when I've been insulted.
Oh!
Well, you satisfied, Ralph? You satisfied? I wouldn't blame her if she never came back here again.
Oh, don't get so dramatic about it. Just whistle and applaud. She'll be back. Now take off that shredded wheat and get my supper.
You listen to me, Ralph. I am going to be in that show.
And I say you're not.
And I say I am.
You're not!
I am.
You're not!
I am.
Well, if you do, you'll be the first woman to do a hula dance on the moon.
The lost episodes were a disappointment to all of us who cared about the Honeymooners, because even though it was always bang, zoom, and one of these days, Alice, the love and the mutual dependence between these two people was evident every millisecond of those 39 episodes. But in the lost episodes, there's a harshness, and they're yelling at each other in a shrill way, and it's confrontational, and there is that underlying feeling of love and affection, and the basic decency of the people is not there. It looks dark and sinister. Throw them out.
Well, because that was those sketches ran about 12 or 14 minutes. And sketch comedy is totally different. It's a totally different style of performing from situation comedy, or from the reality, the truth of the characters. And to me, the great joy was that we just developed into real caring people, where you knew that no matter what cracks we made at each other, there was a depth of understanding and a depth of love.
I'm taking you dancing and roller skating.
Oh, Ralph, that's wonderful.
Now hurry up and get dressed. Oh, wait a minute, before you get dressed. Here. Put this on. My pin.
Here, and have the honors done by Audrey Meadows. I'm looking at this. This might very well be the moment at which he has assured you that he's the coolest man on earth. And you say, that's right, Ralph, I forgot. You're the man who bribes the dust. Would you autograph that for us, please?
Very happy to. Just so happens I have a pen.
What a coincidence. That was one of my favorite episodes, too, that $64,000 question, and he memorized every song in history.
That wasn't that fabulous.
Till the last question.
Brilliant, yeah.
Who wrote Swanee River? Hamina, hamina, hamina. Ed Norton?
Yeah. It was great.
This was a great pleasure for us. Thank you very much.
Oh, it's my pleasure.
Audrey Meadows. We'll see you later.
Jackie Gleason. The Honeymooners. With the stars Art Carney, Audrey Meadows, and Joyce Randolph.